So, in all honesty, there are countless people who supported me in this journey, and I probably wouldn't have, been able to move more than an inch had, these people had not been there. But I would say I would give the biggest credit to my parents.
Hello everyone. I hope everyone is safe and doing well. My name is Unmesh Bagh and I welcome you all to the second episode of The Leader's Mindset, a virtual talk show organized by Center for Cognitive Activities NIT Durgapur. We at CC aim at inspiring a sense of innovation, entrepreneurship and leadership among every individual and inciting conversations that matter. Keeping this goal in mind and without forgetting about the current pandemic situation, CCA is here to share stories of commitment, hard work, and success through this virtual talk show. In the previous episode of The Leader's Mindset, we had the opportunity to host Honorary Major Dr. Deepak Rao, and it was absolutely great talking to such a noble man like him. Today, we have with us another great and inspiring personality, Mr. Shaurya Mehrotra. He is the CEO and founder of Metvi, which is India's first multilingual superconnector that uses artificial intelligence to connect people one is to one according to their networking needs and interests. And guess what? He's just 21 years old. At his age, most of the students struggle with, doing internships and submitting assignments, etc. Whereas he has already achieved so much. So, Mr. Shaurya Mehrotra has completed his bachelor's degree in commerce from Kirori Mal College, Delhi University, and has been a keynote speaker 41 times in various IITs, NITs, and IIMs, etc. So, a very warm welcome to you, sir. We are really glad to have you here.
Let us start by talking about your startup. So,
Sure.
what exactly is Metvi and how does it work? Can you just tell us?
Sure. So just to break it down for our viewers and to make it less complicated, understand Metvi as a next gen networking app that will help you connect with the kind of person that you are looking for according to your specific networking needs. So instead of you going doing searches and looking for people, it automatically predicts your needs, helps you directly connect one on one with the people that you're looking for, right? Understanding your preferences and giving you an option to arrange a meeting at a time of mutual convenience, right? So
Okay,
that's what we are basically trying to build. But the future is to completely automate this whole process, create an app that automatically predicts, what I'm looking for, who I'm looking to connect with, right? And
okay,
imagine getting a request saying that, hey, you might be looking for, connecting with an AI expert. Here are 5 AI experts who are available on Friday 5 p.m. when you also happen to be available, and you just need to click on OK. And as soon as
okay,
you do that, a meeting is automatically arranged for you. So that's what we are, on our way to make, where we create a world where networking is completely democratized for every single person in the room, right? Where they don't have to put in specific efforts to interact with someone, and it's all happening automatically through artificial intelligence. So that's what Metvi basically is.
okay. How and when did you come up with the idea of Metvi? And every name has a story behind it. So, what is the reason behind naming your startup Metvi?
Sure. So, we had a lot of names in, our mind when we were just getting started. Actually, I remember that was when I was back in the first year of my college.
Okay,
So I
okay,
really did not have any clue about, how the whole process works. But I was aware that we needed a domain name.
yeah,
And, I had a very strong fixation that we wanted a .com domain name, right? Because later on, when you actually expand your company, you don't want to actually stick with just .in, right?
yeah,
So with that kind of a mindset, we tried to browse a lot of names that talked about networking directly or indirectly, and finally we prepared a list of around 15 names, which where we were actually getting a .com domain, but which did not make any sense, right? And
okay,
I was just checking. So vneet was one of the names that I wanted to kind of go ahead with, which I couldn't get with a .com domain, and it was a very common word, and it's very difficult to get phrases or names that actually make sense. So I decided to flip it, and that also I couldn't get. So then I decided to kind of, come up with a spelling that still means the same thing, and it's
okay,
short and
okay.
crisp. right? So
Okay.
that's how it became Met V,
Met V.
where we
Okay. Okay.
replaced WE with VY,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a five-letter word, and
Yeah.
it directly gave you an image that yeah, it's somewhere talking about two people interacting with each other,
Okay. Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes. Very true.
So the name just clicked. We all loved it, and we decided to just go ahead and purchase the domain name.
Okay.
So that's how the name kind of happened.
Okay. And you came up with the idea of Met V when you were when you were in your first
Yes,
year of college.
first year of college.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And how did it occur to you like I should make a startup like Met V? Like, was there anything which you could share with us?
Sure. So I have always been into startups as a concept.
Okay.
This actually I got inspired by a TV show called TVF Pictures. Right, it was a web series
Okay.
that
Okay.
came back when I was in high school, and I was very confused about what I really wanted to do. My parents wanted me to become an engineer, like you guys,
Yeah.
and I initially was interested, but then it wasn't like I wasn't kind of able to find my passion there, right? And you can blame people like Imtiaz Ali for that that you'd go and discover your
Okay.
passion. So I just started off a casual venture called Charkha, where we were actually trying to get polyester khadi as a
Okay.
replacement for cotton uniforms, right? And
Okay.
that was quite like we got a very good response to that, but we realized, but my parents wanted me to first get into a good college
Hmm.
before I can, do
Hmm.
all of this stuff because it was not making sense to them at that point of time. So obviously, I got into a college which was Kirodimal.
Ah.
Thankfully, I scored well in my 12th
Yeah.
standard, and as soon as I got into college, I started working with startups. I started getting a hang of how things really work. So, the first thing that I realized that, the startup bug is not going, right? So hence, instead of wasting my time trying a lot of things, I should actually go and just work with a startup to see how things really work, right? So that was the first thing that happened. And therein, I started reading a lot of books. So one of the books that I came across was called The Polyester Prince, right? Polyester Prince is basically a biography on Dhirubhai Ambani. Okay,
Okay.
and it happens to be banned in India, so you can't just get it from any bookstore.
Okay.
Right? It's available online, but you'll have to pay some premium price, or you'll have to convince the bookseller to actually go out of his backyard and give you one copy. So it's that kind
Okay.
of a book, and but that book very beautifully illustrates Dhirubhai Ambani's skill set of networking, right? Of how
Okay.
he used to, literally talk to anybody he used to come across at a tea stall, during his bus rides. He was not a trained professional businessman, right? He had a lot of raw talent, and the biggest raw talent that, according to me, was the responsible for his success was basically networking. He used to know, who is there where, and he used to know where to pull the strings and all to actually rise up the corporate ladder. And that's what he did. Like, he knew everyone, and he
Okay.
leveraged that. And people who were actually his competitors, they did not have those kind of contacts, right? We call it contacts in India here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
uh, and that kind of inspired me. That's so, I the first thing that I did was starting to talk to people that I used to come across every day. So I used to travel from Gurgaon to North Campus every day for my college, and it was a long ride. It's like 1.5 hours one way, and
Okay.
3 hours journey. So I decided that, instead of watching movies and listening to songs, why shouldn't I just start talking to the people who are sitting right next to me? Like, hey dude, my
Okay.
name is
Okay. Yeah.
Shaurya.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you do?
Got it.
And I realized that there are so many amazing people, around us all the time, but there is no way that we can actually connect with them. We can connect with people who are living 3,000 miles away from us through, existing networking platforms. But how do we connect with the people who are just right there, who can solve our needs? I might be traveling with an investor. I might be looking to raise funds. This investor might be looking to invest funds in a startup like mine. But we
Yeah.
are sitting each other, but we don't know that. Right? So that was the first problem statement that I realized that, hey, dude, this is surprising that nobody has thought about this. And there is no platform that's actually, that has successfully pulled this off. So why shouldn't
Okay.
I try to do something of this on these lines? So that is how the idea kind of started shaping up, and later
Hmm.
on, this idea changed, right? So instead of trying to connect people who were right there, we realized that what if artificial intelligence is able to completely remove the whole friction that is there in the networking journey. Today, I go on a networking platform, I look for a person, I send them requests, I wait for them to confirm my request, I send them a message, right? And then they go back and tell me their availability. Then they
Yeah.
share a Google Meet link, and then the whole connect. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, this is very tedious. What if we cut it down to 2 steps? I have a need. The platform is predicting my needs. I automatically get a list of people. I directly send a message or I directly schedule a meeting with them. And why
Okay,
should they
okay,
actually
valid.
though they go and check and give me a link? There's a whole process here, 7, 8 step process, and we got it down to 2 steps already, right? So the future is that we are
Yeah.
going to actually get it down to a single step. You're not doing anything. You just download the app, keep it, and sleep, right? You're going to get a
Yes,
notification
yes,
that
yeah.
hey, Unmesh, what you are looking for a job in consulting. We have a recruiter from McKinsey already waiting for you
Yeah,
at that time, and
I
you're
got a
available.
notification as such. Like I've already installed the Metvi app, and I got a
Sure.
notification like today only. Yeah, so it's a really great thinking, and
Yeah, we recently,
thank
in
you.
fact, we launched a new version yesterday itself, and we've got
Okay.
a great response. We've been trending on both the stores. So I think it's thanks to all the people who've installed the app. We are hopefully think they're going to improve in future as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I hope that I was able to answer your question.
Yes, yes, definitely. Okay. So the next thing which I would like to ask is like generally most of us college students are unable to do much with the ideas that we come up with. Okay, like maybe because of lack of knowledge or experience or even at times the courage. So how did you initiate your plan? Like what were the first few things which you did after coming up with the idea of Medway?
Sure. So I have been groomed in a way where I realized that there's no point in following the crowd, right? And I was never that kind of a guy. For even from
Okay.
my early days, I was always trying new things and breaking out of that crowd thingy. I don't like that. I'm not a mainstream. I'm not somebody who follows mainstream
Okay.
stuff. Right? Even if you look at what I'm wearing, nobody
Yeah,
wears this
yeah,
in an interview, right? So, so I don't like following mainstream things, and that's the reason that I was slightly fearless. So I will say
yeah.
slightly because I was not completely fearless until unless I entered college. When I entered college, I got the freedom, dude. You do whatever the fuck you want,
Yeah, okay, okay.
and nobody is going to say anything because it's up to you now. Now it's your life. Your
Hmm.
parents have done their part. They've played their part, and now you build your life the way you want, and that
Okay.
was beautiful for me. So I realized that a lot of my friends, they are being driven into that crowd culture, that hey, everybody is doing cat, you also want a good job, you do cat. And people who are interested in music, or they want to pursue theater, nobody actually talks about that fact. Nobody recognizes those things as professions, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Even
yeah. True.
entrepreneurship today, nobody in school is like that. Teachers are not like, hey, you should become an entrepreneur. Nobody says that. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
you would get a job in Google, right? But
Right.
what if I want to create my own Google? I don't have an option for that. So,
Okay.
one of the first thing that was actually played a good role was my college. So, Kirodimal College, DU. It's the cultural capital of Delhi University that way, and it's a kind of a place. It's a kind of a college where we get a lot of talented people, because the cutoffs are really high. Although that's not a good measure of
Yeah.
evaluating how
Okay.
good people are, but still, the crowd is really good that way.
Mm.
And people are actually encouraged to do whatever the hell that they want to do. We have
Mm.
got musicians coming out from like KK, and we're getting entrepreneurs like Ashish Kashyap, the founder of Go
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
and Redbus. Getting a lot of great people. We're getting politicians like the chief minister of Odisha. So it's a very diverse alumni network, and the culture is very diverse. So you do whatever you want, and you are pushed to X that you select. And that kind of allowed me to even go more aggressive to explore my passion, should I say, right?
okay.
So but for the students, I think the biggest problem in today's world, in terms of becoming an entrepreneur or trying out their ideas, is breaking down the FOMO factor. And what I call the FOMO factor is the fear of missing out, right?
Okay. Fear of
Today
missing out.
people don't want to. So nobody goes into college thinking that hey, the whole objective of my college life is to actually bag a job in Big 3, or to bag a job in Big 4, or to actually get into Google. People don't step into college thinking that, right? But when they are there and they see that some people are actually getting it, they don't want to miss out on it.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
like, dude, isko mila to, I should also fucking get it. But that's not how the whole process works, right? Because the whole point of your college life is for you to realize what you want to do and to do that. But it's very difficult, and it was difficult for me as well to kind of say, tell myself that hey, Shaurya, you are not going to be one of those. Instead, you're going to follow your own path. And that mentality needs to break down. So like you mentioned, one of the reasons is courage, and
Yeah.
that is what you need courage for. To be like, okay, my friends are doing whatever the hell they want. I don't care about that. I want to build a startup. I want to become a musician. I want to pursue theater. I want to become an artist. I'm going to do that. Let people come and question me. right? So that is reason number one. Reason number two is the mentality of the people around us, our friends, our
Hmm.
families. They don't consider these as proper professions, like I mentioned, right? So they're like, dude, are you sure you want to do this? This is not a profession. You're not going to earn money out of it. But actually, if we look at it, the richest people are entrepreneurs and musicians and all of these people. They are earning a lot of money, but you cannot do that because it's difficult, right?
Yeah,
As
yeah,
if getting a job in Google is not difficult.
yeah.
But parents are okay with that because there is a FOMO factor that's there.
Yeah.
The third element is, of course, distractions, our own distractions, our own battles. It's not easy, of course, and it's slightly harder than the other things because the success rate is smaller. It's still easier. Like, I mean, in most of the colleges, like, colleges like yours, NIT, one of the top colleges, one of the top institutes in India, or for that matter, Kirodimal, most of the people end up getting a job, even if it's not that great.
Hmm.
80%, 90%
Yeah,
placement
yeah.
rate, people are. But how many people end up, building a funded startup? 1%, 2%, right?
Yeah.
So the percentage
Definitely.
is very small, and hence you have to work hard. You have to put in everything. You have to be willing to sacrifice a lot of things that your friends are doing to actually succeed. You have to take that extra step,
Okay.
right? So if you're not passionate about it, then you won't be able to take that extra step anyway. So these are, according to me, the three biggest factors that curtail people to kind of step out. Of course, then you can talk about how the government doesn't promote these things, or for that matter,
Yeah.
how people don't talk about it. But in spite of all of that, if there are people like me, or there are people like so many entrepreneurs who are coming, or so many artists and musicians who are doing this, I think then people really can. It is a possible. It is not impossible under the
Yeah.
current constraints. So yeah, so that's my answer.
Okay. So, who was or were your main support during the process? Like, who were your support and how did they help you in establishing your Medvi?
So in all honesty, there are countless people who supported me in this journey, and I
Hmm.
probably wouldn't have, been able to move more than an inch had, these people had not been there. But I would say I would give the biggest credit to my parents,
Okay.
because they gave me two conditions. Number one, they said that they did not have a problem with me doing this, but they just wanted me to be successful, and that is every parent's, main mindset,
Yeah.
that the reason why they ask you to go for a job is because हमारा बच्चा settle हो जाएगा kind of
Uh,
mindset, right? And so they said one thing: we don't have a problem as long as you can ensure your financial stability, right? That is
okay.
point number one. And point number two is you need to have a backup plan, that you need to be good enough that in case everything gets fucked up, you are not going to
Yeah.
like, we are not going to feed you, right? As simple as that.
Yeah.
So I think these two things ensured a lot of sort of a challenge to me, that okay,
Okay.
I
Okay.
want to, if I want to become an entrepreneur, I need to become an entrepreneur who is building a business in a sustainable way, rather than kind of raising some funds, throwing it into marketing, seeing if things work. I never wanted to follow that kind of an ideology, and that is something that we're still not doing.
Yeah.
I want to take a sort of a bootstrapped model, that we are just raising funds that is just enough to help us grow, and we
Okay.
are actually trying to make sure that the business is producing revenue as soon as possible, right? Which is not usually the case for consumer internet companies. So this was something that I got from my parents, right? This is a sort of a direct outcome of that mentality that they kind of built inside of me. So of course, and apart from that, my father always considering the fact that he's a service guy, he's a corporate guy, but he still understands a lot of basics of businesses, right? Of how they function, how they are, how they work. So he really shared his wisdom. He helped me connect with the right kind of people, right? He was my metwi in the
Okay.
first year of how things were going, helping me, just introducing me to the people who have done a good job, who can kind of just guide me a little bit as to how I should take these things forward, right? So one of his very dear friends who's now a mentor at Metwi, Mr. Jay Kumar Babu. He played a huge role in helping
Okay.
us, shaping us, telling us what we are doing wrong, and so on and so forth. So of course, then I had my own mentor, Mr. Aditya Shankar, who's the founder and CEO of Doubtnut. It's a multi-million dollar
Okay.
startup now, funded by Sequoia. So of course, he guided me whenever I needed his guidance, and so on and so forth. So these are the people I would actually mention, apart from my friends, apart from the people who have been close to me, who actually played a very pivotal role in actually helping me get here. So yeah, that's my
Okay.
answer.
Okay. Now, you've done a few internships and you've been a keynote speaker for 41 times. So, how did these help you in becoming who you are today? Like, and according to you, how important is co-curriculars for college students?
I feel that co-curriculars is probably the most important thing in
Okay,
Indian colleges. The reason
okay,
being that, whatever we are being taught,
okay,
some of it, I think at least 20 or 30% of it is relevant. The
okay,
the rest of it is probably not,
okay,
right? And even out of that 20%, the amount of knowledge that you're really going to use in your professional career is going to be 5 to 10%,
okay,
right? So at the end of the day, if I just talk about the real utility of any whatever we are being taught here, actually boils down to zero. I mean, people want to get into NITs and IITs because of the brand, because of
yeah,
what they represent, because of the crowd of the kind of people that they're going to interact, because of the companies that come from placement. Nobody says, hey dude, I want to go into NIT because मेरे को वहां पर there's this guy who teaches amazing stuff. Nobody says that,
definitely,
right? We look at the rankings, we look at the placements, and we decide to go for that particular college. And because of that mindset, the real education, the real learning is reduced to just what is required. That's all to get the degree. And that's what I think everyone in college does. I mean, I'm pretty sure that that's what you might also be doing, just to do enough so that you are able to score decent grades, which will help
yeah,
you in placements, right? So, with that kind of a mentality, I think it's very important to focus on extracurriculars because that really helps you shape yourself to face the world,
okay,
right? And it also depends on what kind of extracurriculars are you focusing on, right? So for me, what I did in my first year journey, I worked at a startup. Why did I work at a startup? It was very calculated. When I
okay,
look back at at what I did in my first year, I'm really proud of myself as to how that whole process played out. Although I wasn't that intelligent at that point of time, but it
okay,
still somehow played out in the right way. So during my first year, I worked with a startup, which was basically a co-working space. Now, it was a co-working space startup. So the beauty about that place was I could interact with as many startup founders that I wanted.
okay,
Imagine,
okay,
right? So
okay,
I
okay,
was sitting, my desk was just outside Zostel's office, which is one of the known startups in the ecosystem. I was interacting with the founders of Crow Farm. I was interacting with the founders of Squirrel, and all of these amazing startups were all around me. And today they are big names in the industry. So I got to interact with these people. I got to see how they are working, which made
okay,
me realize and question myself, can I do the same? Can I see, can I kind of adapt to this culture, right? That was the first point. The second point was, of course, after I was done with that internship, after I realized that okay, I've learned a lot and now I should try and experiment with something else, I worked with Ogilvy and Madhur, right? And
okay,
Ogilvy, like we all know, it's India's largest marketing agency, advertising agency. They're behind amazing ads. Be it their clients like BMW, Google, Vodafone, all the great brands that we know are
yeah,
being made by Ogilvy, right? So there, I got to see the corporate culture, how things really work, what's going
okay,
on there, how is it different from a startup culture, right? So that mix of knowledge and understanding how branding works and marketing works in these internships allowed me to become what I did after that, right? And apart from making sure that I'm actually doing is it these internships, I was also active in the college societies, right? So social entrepreneurship ventures like Enactors and finance and investment sales and so on and so forth, which also gave me a good idea about how do people really manage at this level. How do the structures kind of function? What are the basics of finances, very basics of marketing and entrepreneurship? And as soon as I realized that okay, this is all I could learn from here, I stepped up. I stopped it, right? So one of the problems that I see that with people who actually do a lot of extracurriculars in college is that they continue doing it and they feel that okay, if I'm doing this, I will continue to grow here. And that's the wrong mentality. You need to continuously ask yourself, are you learning something out of it or not? If you are not learning out of it, even if they are offering you a core team position in that college society, or even if that internship is offering you a pre-placement offer, please fold your hands and leave. Be at a place where you are constantly getting to learn, and as soon as the learning stops, that place is not useful for you. And this is specific for college students, because these are the 3 4 5 years of your life where you can learn as much as you can. This is the time to learn. And if you are doing extracurricular activities to show a certificate to the recruiter that you're going to sit in front of after 3 years, don't do it. Rather than doing that, if you continuously improve upon yourself, if you continuously learn like I did, when I sat for placement just for fun, I cracked
okay,
4 jobs. I cracked 4 jobs, and I actually had no kind of, I did not want to go ahead with jobs at the first place,
Mm,
right? But
okay.
I just thought, what's wrong? Let's just sit and see what happens. I cracked 4 jobs, and my friends who had been, preparing for these placements, compiling certificates for the first 4 years, some of them also couldn't get through. So I realized that, hey, with not such a great GPA or with not so many certificates, I could still do it. Why? Because I was constantly grooming myself. And that's what organizations also look at.
Yeah.
Are you somebody who's willing to learn? Are you somebody who knows a lot of stuff, who can contribute towards the ideation process, who can work hard when they're asked to? Right? If you match all of those boxes, then they're not even going to ask where you worked, what did you do. I know what I did, and I have that knowledge, and I can present it right in front of you. That's what they want, right? So
Okay.
you need to shape your extracurricular activities in such a way so that they actually make you become a better professional. That needs to be the agenda from the very first day, according to me.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
So this brings me to another question. How did you manage to start Metwe while pursuing your bachelor's? Like, did it take a toll on your student's life?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There is
So
okay. So honestly, there is this thing called maintaining work-life balance. In
yeah,
all honesty, it's impossible to maintain perfect work-life balance,
yeah.
no matter what you do. Especially if you're starting your own business, you want to maintain work-life balance. Go and find a job in a bank, right?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So where you have fixed timings and everything. But if you're starting a business, then in the first few years, right, or first 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, there is a lot of grind around it because you are building stuff, you are creating something out of nothing, right? So the difference between a job and a business and running a business, the biggest difference is that when you are doing a job, it's an ongoing job and you're filling up that gap. Okay, that somebody was already doing this before, or somebody was not doing this, but everything has already been set into motion, right? So if you understand the law of inertia, that it's always difficult to change the direction of motion, right? To change the direction,
Yeah.
to stop or reduce the pace or to manipulate it. That is what friction. That friction is inertia. So when you're actually getting started, there's obviously much more friction because you're changing the position, that you're changing the motion of that particular object. You're getting something, you're setting something in motion. So that inertia requires the founder or requires the core team of the business to constantly work hard, to work very hard, so that they can get the thing into motion. Once it's in the motion, once things are actually happening, once you start seeing some revenue coming in, then it's obviously slightly easier. I won't say very easy, but slightly easier to continue that pace or to gradually accelerate,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So I think obviously there was a huge impact on my education. In fact, I scored terribly poor grades in my first couple of years of college. At the end of the day, I could compensate for it. I just studied for one semester. I got to a 7.5 by the
Okay.
end of my graduation as my overall grade. But obviously, in the first 2 grades, I was averaging in fives and sixes, right? So it was not 5 pointers, 6 pointers are not considered good. So I was really struggling with it, and I was willing to take up that struggle. I was willing to kind of, put this in the back burner and focus on my business because I knew one thing. Again, that the whole, point, the perspective of my middle class family kind of comes into play. If you want to run your business after you graduate, it better be a sustainable business and you're financially stable.
Yeah.
So
So
I wanted to make my business financially stable so that I can also become financially stable. And hence I knew that in order to get there by the time I graduate, I need to put in as much efforts as I can while I'm in college. Right? So that I
yeah.
can do this full time after this. Hence, my grades were impacted. Hence, it was very difficult to manage. Hence, it's very difficult to manage for most of the people. You need to find a way, and the only way to actually, kind of do it is by, jugaad, right? You
Yeah.
you know
Jugaad.
you should know what you need to study one night before the exam. There have been
Yes.
days where I've been literally studying in the metro, right? And there's
Okay.
an
Yeah.
exam after 20 minutes, and I'm literally just studying. I've just opened the book. I've got no clue, right? So,
Yeah.
and you of course require a bit of luck to kind of sail through, right? So I mean that's how things worked out. But yes, it did take a huge toll, no doubt about that.
Okay. Okay, so how did you approach investors for the funding of Metwe? Like, is it a difficult process? And
Okay. So I will describe it in the way the way Aditya also describes it. It's a bloodbath, right?
okay,
It's a bloodbath, and it's extremely hard because there is a demand supply mismatch, right? So the number of startups that are looking to raise funds versus the number of investors,
yeah,
there's a massive difference, right? So
yeah,
it's very easy. Like it's a lot of competition, right? Cutthroat
yeah,
competition, and you need to outmatch everyone to actually get there, right?
yeah,
And that is the only reason why it's difficult, right? Otherwise, when I talk about outreaching, right, reaching out to the investors, having a conversation with them, that is that we need to understand that investor interactions are typically like a conversation, right, where they are trying to understand you as much as you are trying to understand them.
yeah,
Are they the right fit for your business? And similarly, they're also looking at you and thinking that are you the right fit for their investments or not,
yeah.
right? And if you're able to convince them in this conversation, or if you feel that they are also the right kind of investors for you, then you actually crack the deal. So the whole process is about having a lot of clarity about what you are building. It's very simple. Are you getting it? So you
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to
yeah.
know what your business is about. You need to know what you are doing in that business. You need to know how it's functioning. And if you have that clarity, then it becomes much easier for you to convince the investors. That's all they want to know,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And when I talk about outreach, I mean, a lot of people feel that it's very difficult to get in touch with investors. It's not. You just simply Google the list of top angel investors and VCs. You'll get a list, and you go on their websites, and all of their websites have a contact us option. They have a form where you can kind of register for it, and
Hmm.
you can kind of apply for funding there.
Okay.
So it's not very hard. But what you really need to do is to get a lot of clarity about what you are building, how you are building, how are you going to make money, how are you going to be so convinced? Are you convinced yourself that you will be like, if you need to envision yourself in the place of an investor. If you had 20
Okay.
lakh
Okay.
rupees,
Yeah.
had you invested all of those 20 lakhs in your own startup or not? If the answer to that question is no, then your investor is not going to invest. No investor is actually going to come in and pour money into your startup. You cannot fool a 20, 30, 40-year-old guy who's been into this space for a lot of years. You cannot do that.
Yeah.
So instead of doing that, try to build a business that is sound enough to attract investors.
Okay.
And if you have done that, trust me, I know a few startups who raised funds very easily because they had built a business which is doing a great job, which is already showing a lot of signs of success. They are getting a consistent stream of revenue. They are seeing good traction. It becomes easy. It became easy for us when we also started hitting the numbers. When we were
Okay.
approaching investors without any good numbers, without any traction, we were getting straight no's. And when we started reaching out to investors with good numbers, with revenue numbers, with good traction from the market, investors got excited. They wanted to see, they wanted to talk, they wanted to see if this is a good fit for them or not,
Yeah.
right? So that's how we ended up raising funds. So I think
Okay.
that whole process needs to be very clearly understood, that it's not about making a beautiful pitch deck. They are not interested in your pitch deck. They're just interested to see if you have the clarity or not, right? So that's all. Yeah.
Okay. So the next question for you is, what were some of the major obstacles which you faced during the initial days of building Metwe, and how
I
did you
think
overcome them?
I think the biggest obstacle that most of the startups face is getting the initial capital, right? You
Okay.
don't have anything,
Yeah.
and if you're not coming from a rich family, I mean, I come from a middle class family, so I never had that liberty to ask my father, "Hey, why don't you give me 1 lakh? I'm going to burn it." I never was that in that kind of a space. So I always had to build things from nothing. So that was the biggest challenge, that you have nothing whatsoever. You have got no money, you've got no team, you've got no knowledge, and you have to build a startup that works, right? So I think that is a very big challenge because you don't know how to navigate yourself, right?
Yeah.
The initial friction of just setting the things in motion itself is very hard to produce, right?
Okay.
And that was the first obstacle that I faced personally, to get a co-founder, to build a B plan, to understand how businesses works, right? To understand how which market to enter, to understand whether my own idea is feasible or not, right? So that was the very first friction that I faced, where I did not have any guidance. I did not have any one to show the light to me, right? After this, the second biggest challenge that I faced was getting numbers, right?
Yeah.
Over a period of time, we realized that to actually launch a product, to build a product, everything requires money. There's literally nothing that you can kind of go, kind of keep infinitely, and it won't require funds at any point of time. It will. Even you would require money to survive at some point of time. So there is nothing that comes free of cost, and hence you need to make sure that you are getting some kind of capital support. So what, when I think this book called 0 to 1, which very beautifully, it has been written by Peter Thiel, right, the founder of PayPal, right?
Okay.
So it very beautifully talks about how it is so difficult to get something out of nothing. And that's all, that's the first step of entrepreneurship. And most of the entrepreneurs, 90% of the entrepreneurs, don't get to the next stage, right? Because you have to get something, numbers. If you want funds, if you want investment, you have to get numbers. If you want numbers, you have to get a product. How do you get product if you don't have money? So it's a paradox. Right? So that's what we had to do. We had to get some great numbers. And for that, we needed to pull off a beautiful product, right?
Okay.
And we knew that we couldn't pull off a beautiful product. So we decided to go pull off a product that works. That
Okay.
nothing more, right?
Yeah.
So when we launched the MVP, it was back in September 2018, when we launched the MVP on Play Store, and we were trending. We were trending on 8th rank, I remember, in social category, and we got around 8,000 downloads in a span of 30 days. On the very first day, we got 1,000 downloads in 10 hours, right? And our server had crashed. So we got great numbers, right? And we had got the product built from our friends, right? We asked them, please, madad kar do yaar, because we are not engineers. So we took help from a few engineers who helped us out, who were friends. And after the launch, when we got good numbers, when we got a lot of users kind of using the product, enjoying the product, that is when we realized that now it's the right time to start approaching the investors, because we realized that we cannot continuously ask help from engineers, of our engineering friends, right? They said ki dude, padhna hai bas, ho gaya, kar diya na, ab mat bol. So that became very difficult. So now we knew that in order to build our own tech team, we had to raise some funds. So that became the next problem, right? That became the next obstacle. How do you actually raise funds? How do you convince investors? And we did not know anything. So I remember in my first meeting, the first meeting that I and Rajan had with investors, we were literally, we had been grilled. We had been roasted, right? In the worst possible way. When we walked out of our room, out of the conference room, we were both like, what the hell happened? What was that? It was harder than any interview or any kind of conversation that I had ever come across in my life, right? And I got shit scared of investor meetings. And okay, this is not easy. But over a period of time, after a lot of no's, after a lot of rejection, I started getting used to it. Okay, this is what they want. Okay, this is what they're asking. Okay, this is the kind of clarity that they want. So I continuously improved upon myself, right? After this obstacle, I got another obstacle, which was, okay, now you've got money, but how do you actually build a product? If you're coming from a non-engineering background, product management becomes a massive challenge, huge challenge. And Rajan was like, dude, I'll handle marketing, you go and you handle product. So that became a challenge. So over a period of time, we solved that challenge, we got over it, and we were able to make sure that everything works well. And, the product got iterated, bug testing and everything, managing the developers, understanding which languages they code in, ensuring that the architecture is good enough, and all of those things. I learned all of those things by talking to my engineering friends, right? And after that, again, the new challenge came in. That, okay, now again, we have a shortage of funds, but we have to get good traction. So how do we build a product that people like? Instead of building a product that just worked, we now had to build a product that was really good. That ensured that if anybody goes to Metvi, they come back to me and they're like, yeah, we liked it, right? There is so scope of improvement, but yes, we liked it. So to get to that level also, there was a whole challenge to it. Right? So entrepreneurship is a journey where you imagine that you are driving a car and there's a truck that is going in front of you, and there's this evil asshole who is sitting on the truck, right? And this guy, find whatever is kept in the truck, he's throwing at you every day. And it's something different. And now you cannot stop the car. So there are no brakes here. You cannot stop the car, because if you stop the car, the company fails. So you cannot stop the car. You have to dodge. So every, day, as an entrepreneur, I get a new challenge. Shaurya, server nahi kam kar raha. Shaurya,
Okay.
we are not getting the marketing numbers. Shaurya, we've got the branding campaign is not working. We are not getting good traction. Every day, a new challenge is thrown at you, right? And you have to constantly juggle. You have to constantly, manage it. And that is the fun of the journey as well. Because
Yeah,
if you get bored by regular roles, you should actually become an entrepreneur, because every single day is going to be different from the previous day, right?
definitely.
So
So,
so you need to be kind of willing to take all of those obstacles as and when they come to kind of do well. So I hope that I was able to answer your question.
yes, definitely. Okay, so, sir, last question for you. How has the
Sure.
COVID-19 pandemic affected things at Medvi? I mean, positively, negatively, or has it remained
So
unaffected?
sure. So COVID actually came as a huge negative for us, because
Okay,
we were at a point of time where we had our product was almost ready, and we were just waiting to launch the product. But then we realized that, hey, we don't have we were in the process of also raising funds. So
okay,
when the pandemic actually happened, all the fund in the market kind of dried up, right? And even though we were able to get a term sheet, uh, investors were in a kind of position where they were like, they had even more control on the startups. That, okay, if you want my deal, you have to do X, Y, Z, W. You have to change your vision. You
hmm,
have to focus on these things. And we were not kind of willing to do that. We did
okay,
not want to change our vision. We were very confident about what we are building. We were very sure about what we really wanted to do out of it. So hence we had to say no to that term sheet that we got, in spite of the fact that we got a term sheet in the midst of pandemic, right?
okay,
So that was a point of time where we had no funds left, right? I mean, we did have funds left enough to survive for 3 months, right? And we were very scared. We did not know how to go about it, because there was no plan of launching a revenue stream in the coming these 3 months. We wanted to first focus on the product, but then we realized that, okay, now if we don't do it, we are going to fail anyway, right? So why don't, instead of waiting for investors to come in and fund us, why don't we start a revenue stream on our own? And that is when we launched MetWe Learn, right? Where we realized that a lot of people who want to start their own businesses, or a lot of people who want to learn subjects, they're not being given a proper mentorship, right? Which is one of the use cases that we saw on the app, that people
yeah,
were asking for mentorship from each other. So what if we create a cohort where we are actually getting top mentors from organizations like PepsiCo, Nike, Walmart, who are guiding these people onto the themes that they want to talk about. And instead of just the guidance, instead of just in an interaction, what if we also help them with top-notch, latest study material, apart from tasks where they're really getting to do those things that are being taught by their mentors. So if, say, you ask for mentorship from me, and I tell you that ऐसे ऐसे होता है भाई, and you listen to it and you go to sleep. Instead of that, what if I tell you that this is what you are supposed to do, Unmesh? Like, you need to follow XYZ, or you need to build a business canvas for me, and you
okay,
do it. That is real learning, right? So
yeah,
we realized that this model was beautiful, and we had a huge panel of mentors with ourselves. So we decided to replicate this, to actually implement this, and we got a massive response. So initially we ran it for free. We got 1,200 applications. Again, no marketing. We did not pay for any marketing till now. We haven't spent a single penny on our marketing, by the way, in spite of the
okay,
trending and everything that you are seeing. Not a
okay,
single penny, not a single rupee. So after all of this, we realized that 1,200 people are interested to enroll for this. That's a massive number. So we decided to take in just 30 people and see how it goes. So we shortlisted the 30 people. We were getting applications from IIT Kharagpur, IIM Bangalore, and all the top-notch institutes of the country.
hmm,
Kirodimal, SRCC, from DU. So then we actually went through with the process, and they loved the experience. And now we realize that, okay, we need to cover our costs. It takes money to actually get the mentors. It gets money to actually collaborate, to prepare the content, to actually run the whole show. So
yeah,
we decided to monetize it, and then it worked. We started, people were very, very much interested to pay 2,200 bucks or $2,000 for a 30-day long mentorship cohort, where they're actually getting all of these things, right?
okay,
So that is how our first revenue model kind of kicked in. And pandemic, instead of being a huge bane for us where we were not able to sustain ourselves, it changed into making Metvi a profitable startup, right?
okay,
Where now we could actually monetize the use case that we saw into the product and integrate it with the product, so that people who are looking for mentorship, there are so many people on our app who are looking for mentorship, they don't have to go anywhere else. Here are the things that we are actually provide mentorship for, and we are getting the top-notch mentors to actually do it for you. So things started to change that way. right? So we are still in the process of integrating the revenue stream into the product, but the whole process, the whole pandemic taught us a few very valuable lessons. Number one, you need to start thinking about money from the very first that you're starting your business, instead of thinking that, okay, we are going to raise funds and then we are going to see what happens, right? Lesson number two, you make sure that you are creating something that's really valuable, that people are actually willing to pay for. It's not easy to convince people to pay, right? And when you actually get into sales, you're going to realize that. So that was the second lesson that we learned. Third lesson was that no matter what happens, don't change your vision. Our vision was always to make sure that we are, like the revenue model that we had thought of was always to monetize our use cases. And in the end, that's what worked out. That we monetize one of the use cases, that we solve the product. That people are coming for networking, they're looking for mentorship. Can we earn money out of it? Right?
Okay.
So no matter how many, people come to you and say, this is not going to work, or what, this is not something that's going to scale. You believe in what you are actually building for, and you actually just go and do it. So these are the three things that we kind of learned from this process that helped us become a much, bigger company, a much, we are now profitable, we are sustainable, we have a great team backing things up. So things started to work, right?
Okay.
So yeah, that's
Okay.
that's how the pandemic
Thank
was for us.
Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your views with us. And it was so great talking to you, and we learned a lot of things. And accomplishing so much at such a young age is definitely not a walk in the park. So we thank you so much. So
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me over.